Red and blue lights washed over my white picket fence like I'd done something criminal. And there I was, barefoot on my own front steps, watching a woman in a visor point at my chest like she owned my lungs. The cop's hand hovered near his belt while she hissed, "He's refusing to comply." And all of this, every bit of it, started because my mailbox was the wrong shade of gray. My name's Ethan Hayes, and I'm the kind of guy who trusts paper more than people. Deeds, surveys, plats, the boring stuff that keeps the world from turning into a shouting match. I moved to Cedar Grove Estates because I wanted quiet. Trees, space. A place where the loudest thing I heard was a lawnmower 2 streets away. I didn't buy into some glossy brochure dream either. I bought a problem property, one of those edge lots that bounced through a county auction after years of neglect. It was cheaper, a little rough around the edges, and perfect for someone like me who didn't mind rolling up his sleeves. The first week I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Neighbors waved politely, nobody bothered me, and the air smelled like fresh-cut grass and money. Then the notes started showing up like someone was leaving threats wrapped in polite language. Trash bins visible from street. Porch light exceeds community wattage. Failure to maintain approved mulch color. Approved mulch color. I remember staring at that one like it was a prank. It wasn't. I met Tiffany Lang the next morning. I didn't meet her like a normal human either. She intercepted me halfway down my driveway with a clipboard, a tight smile, and that look people get when they've been waiting their whole lives to tell someone no. "Mr. Hayes," she said, dragging out my name like it tasted bad. "Welcome to Cedar Grove. I'm Tiffany, president of the Homeowners Association. We need to address a few compliance items." She flipped her clipboard like she was revealing a magic trick. Mailbox. Not approved. I glanced at my mailbox, solid, clean, perfectly functional. "It holds mail," I said. "That's the job." Her smile didn't move. "It's the wrong finish, and your house number is not in the approved font." I actually laughed. Like a real laugh. "Okay, here's the thing," I said, keeping it light. "I'm not under your HOA. That was the moment her face changed. The smile dropped, the eyes sharpened, and suddenly it wasn't about a mailbox anymore. "You can't opt out," she snapped. "I'm not opting out," I said. "I'm telling you, I'm not in it." "Different thing." Tiffany's head tilted like a predator hearing a sound in the bushes. "Every home in Cedar Grove is under the association." I shrugged. Not mine. Brad Henson, the guy standing behind her with crossed arms like a bouncer, scoffed. "Yeah, sure." I walked inside, grabbed my closing folder, and came back out holding my deed like it was a shield. "Here," I said, "my parcel isn't part of your recorded covenants. You can check the county map." Tiffany didn't even look. She just lifted her phone. "Then I'll call someone who can make you understand." And no joke, she called the police. Right there in front of my driveway like she was ordering a pizza. 10 minutes later, I was standing on my own lawn explaining to an officer why I was being treated like a suspect over paint and typography. Tiffany talked first, of course. "He's refusing to comply with association standards," she said, voice trembling with righteous anger. "He's harassing board members and threatening the peace of our community." The cop looked at me. "Sir." I handed him the deed and the printed parcel map I'd pulled from the county site. "I'm not trying to start anything," I said. "I just don't belong to their HOA." He studied the paperwork longer than Tiffany liked. I could see it in her foot tapping her chin, lifting her impatience, growing like steam. Finally, the officer cleared his throat and handed my papers back. "Ma'am," he said, calm as a metronome, "he's right. His property isn't under your association's jurisdiction." Tiffany's eyes widened like someone had slapped her. "That's impossible." The officer didn't argue. He just repeated it slower. "You can't enforce association rules on property that isn't part of the association." For 1 second I thought that would be the end of it. Like reality had spoken and Tiffany would have to accept it. Instead, she leaned toward me and whispered through clenched teeth, "This isn't over." And that's when the real punishment began. The next day an invoice showed up taped to my door. Daily fine $75. The reason: failure to comply with mailbox standards. I emailed the board. I attached my deed, my parcel map, the officer's case number. I was polite, professional, boring. They responded with one sentence: "Payment is due within 10 business days to avoid escalation." Escalation. More letters came. More fines. Then the social stuff started. Neighbors I'd waved at suddenly stopped making eye contact. A woman walking her dog crossed the street when she saw me like my driveway was contagious. Someone posted a picture of my house on the community forum with a caption, "This is what happens when one homeowner thinks he's above the rules." And the wildest part? For a few days, it worked. Because I'm not made of stone. I'm just a guy who wanted quiet, and now I was the villain in a neighborhood story I didn't audition for. At night, I'd sit at my kitchen table with those letters spread out like evidence of a crime I didn't commit, and I'd think maybe I missed something. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should just repaint the stupid mailbox, pay the fines, and move on. There was a moment, real talk, where I opened a real estate app and started scrolling. My finger hovered over "List your home." I remember staring at that screen and hearing Tiffany's voice in my head, "You can't opt out." And I almost believed her. Then my own stubbornness kicked in, slow, steady like a diesel engine. Because if my job taught me anything, it's this: boundaries aren't feelings, they're facts. So I stopped arguing with Tiffany, and I started digging. I pulled the recorded covenants for Cedar Grove Estates. I pulled the Homeowners Association charter filings. I pulled annexation documents, anything that mentioned boundary expansions or updated plats. And there it was, buried in a dry county record like a snake under a rock, an annexation proposal from years ago. Returned for revision. Not approved, not refiled, never recorded. Which meant the Homeowners Association had been acting like it owned more territory than it legally did. My hands actually shook when I realized what that meant. Not just for me, but for the whole neighborhood. I drove to the county clerk's office the next morning. The building smelled like old paper and coffee that had given up. A clerk named Mr. Darnell Gray, hair-tired eyes surprisingly sharp, pulled up my parcel and the subdivision map. He tapped the screen. "You're outside their recorded boundary," he said like he was telling me the weather. "So they can't find me," I said. "Nope." "They can't enforce anything." "Nope." I swallowed. "Then why are they doing it?" Mr. Darnell leaned back. "Because most people don't check." That sentence hit me harder than anything Tiffany ever said. A week later, I got a notice for a compliance hearing. They wanted to publicly shame me, make an example out of me like a medieval trial with folding chairs. I showed up anyway. The clubhouse was packed. Tiffany stood at the front like a queen holding court, Brad beside her like a guard dog. She read out my violations into a microphone that squealed every few seconds. Unapproved mailbox. Unapproved exterior number font. Failure to submit compliance payment. She paused dramatically. And refusal to acknowledge the authority of the Homeowners Association. People murmured. Phones angled toward me. When she finally stopped, I walked forward and asked one simple question. "Under which recorded covenant are you enforcing these fines on my parcel?" Tiffany blinked. "Excuse me." I held up the county-stamped map. "Show me the document," I said, voice steady. "The recorded document that places my property under your HOA. Her face tightened. "We don't have to—" "Yes," I interrupted, quiet but firm. "You do." That's when she did something I still can't believe. She signaled Brad, and he stepped toward me like he was going to physically remove me from the room. My stomach dropped. For half a second I felt that helplessness again, like no matter what was true, power was going to win anyway. Then the doors opened. A deputy sheriff walked in, uniform, calm, carrying a folder. Behind him was Mark Adler, the attorney I'd hired the day after my county visit. Mark didn't smile. He just set his briefcase down and said, "We're done playing pretend." The deputy spoke first. "I'm here to prevent a disturbance," he said, eyes scanning the room, "and to witness the delivery of legal documents." Tiffany's voice went shrill. "This is a private meeting." Mark lifted a hand. "Not anymore. Not when you're attempting to enforce unlawful penalties." And then I dropped the twist. I didn't just have proof I wasn't under their HOA, I had something better. See, while Tiffany was busy trying to crush me, I kept looking through county listings, quietly, obsessively. And I found 3 parcels the Homeowners Association used every day, but never legally owned. A strip of land behind the clubhouse. A retention lot they called common area. A little access path they acted like was theirs to control. The transfers were messy, old, unfinished. The parcels had reverted into county inventory. So when those parcels went up for auction, I bought them. All 3. Mark slid 3 freshly recorded deeds across the front table. County seal, recording number, my name. Tiffany stared at the papers like they were a dead animal. Brad's mouth opened, then closed. I kept my voice low because I wanted every word to land. "I didn't take anything from you," I said. "You just never owned it." Tiffany's hands clenched around her clipboard. "This is extortion," she barked, but her voice cracked. "This is harassment." Mark didn't even look at her. "Extortion requires coercion," he said. "Mr. Hayes followed the law." "You didn't." The deputy stepped forward and very calmly spelled it out for the room. "If the Homeowners Association continues operating on parcels they do not own," he said, "it may constitute trespassing." And then he looked at Tiffany. "Ma'am," he added, "calling law enforcement to intimidate residents can also be addressed. If it continues." Tiffany went pale. Not angry, pale, fear pale. Because in that one moment, her whole weapon, the illusion that she could control people, collapsed under the weight of actual paperwork. She swallowed hard and whispered, barely audible, "You did this to humiliate me." I held her gaze. "No," I said. "You humiliated yourself the second you called cops instead of checking a map." And that's where she broke, not with a scream, not with a slap, but with silence. The kind that tells you someone just realized the game is over and they can't reset it. Lesson learned. If someone's power depends on you not knowing your rights, it was never real power to begin with.